And the psilocybin mushrooms that grows, like many people take this as a psychedelic. Is there any a side effect, like which you have observed, like for example, if we are keep on smoking a cigarette, like for it has
Hmm.
nicotine in it, and it can give you some sort of cancerous
Oh yeah,
cancerous
yeah.
cells, yeah. So these sort of things, like, because when we are taking the magic mushroom, actually what happens, the mind got expanded, and it can give an opportunity to think through. I mean, if you are taking in that particular way, not just to get into high and listening to some music, no, but if you are taking into some meditative way, this can actually give you a lot more perception about life and things like that, and it can open up your mind also. But what happens if somebody is keep taking this?
Yeah, well, what we have as far as the data around people who continuously consume mushrooms is that
Mm-hmm.
they have essentially prolonged beneficial side effects. And we haven't, I don't know of any research that's saying that there's any long term detriment, only research that's saying that there is long term benefit,
Mm-hmm.
especially around trauma, especially around people with post traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of traumas. Other ones that have really good benefits are people with terminal illnesses, because mushrooms, you can see here, I've got a little diagram up that's been pretty famous, where
Mm-hmm.
on the left hand side it shows this is sort of a map of normal brain activity, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
have a psilocybin mushroom here on the right hand side, you see a lot more different brain activity. So what actually has been recorded to happen is when you're normally operating your normal brain function, they call a default mode network. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like things that run just quite normally, and it is like your ego and who you are and all things like that. Whenever you have the serotonin like psychedelic mushroom, this comes
Mm-hmm.
in and it changes the way that you actually think, and it
Mm-hmm.
changes your perception of all kinds of different things, your perception of who you are, your perception of time and space, and your
Mm-hmm.
perception of how you relate and connect to reality. So what it does is it makes you look at
Mm-hmm.
potentially traumatic situations with a different view. And when you can look at things with a different view, it helps you to not only accept them, but process them. And this is why it's been really good for people with trauma or post traumatic stress, but also for those who have terminal illnesses, because they become sort of comfortable with the situation and fear the outcome much less, because they're able to think about it in different ways.
So the thing is, like, I have shared you the story which we have given the magic mushroom to the cat. The cat was all of a
Yeah,
sudden jumping around, like, like becoming
yeah.
so crazy. So what exactly, like, what kind of components are getting developed in our brain when we are consuming the magic mushrooms?
Well, psilocybin, I'll show the physical structure. So, psilocybin molecule, when we pull that up,
Mm-hmm.
we got here, we want to show one that is it shows that, let's see, tryptophan, tryptophane, and serotonin. So, if you can see over here on the right hand side, psilocin and
Mm-hmm.
psilocybin, they have a very similar structure to this compound right here called serotonin. Now,
Mm-hmm.
serotonin is one of the compounds that your brain uses for a specific type of feeling. So, serotonin effect. Let me show you this. What does serotonin do? It influences your mood, sleep, appetite, digestion. It influences so many different things, and it actually
Mm-hmm.
it influences the way that you experience different
Mhm.
experiences. And so when this neurotransmitter, instead of serotonin, comes into your receptor,
Mhm.
you then have a different perception of reality. Now, it doesn't get broken down in the way that you would break down alcohol or sugar or another macronutrient. That's not the same. This is a neurotransmitter. So what it does is
Mhm.
it comes and it sits in a neuron
Mhm.
for a period of time, and then after a certain period of time, your neuron lets it go, and then
Mhm.
it will leave your body. So you'll urinate it out. You don't
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
anything. It doesn't have any downstream effects other than your feeling about what you experience. So you can
Mhm.
have all sorts of a range of different experiences on psilocybin. And
Mhm.
depending on whether or not you integrate that, you might have a
Mhm.
traumatic experience because it can be quite challenging. They call it a hero's journey whenever you have,
Mhm. Mhm.
a good large amount of mushrooms, and then, you experience some of the darkness that you don't normally think about. You don't have the ability to stop that kind of thinking, but also you
Mhm.
experience like deep connections with nature and with other people and with, your surroundings. So
Mhm.
you get presented with a whole balance of different things,
Mhm.
and it is up to you to then sort of integrate that, take in and realize that, that was simply a psychedelic experience,
Mhm.
and it's on you to go forward and do what you will with it. For most people,
Mhm.
they find that integration is actually quite cathartic and it makes them feel very good. And you get what's called an afterglow. So after you have a
Mhm.
large amount of psilocybin, typically you go through some difficulty, but then you get through the experience and you realize that you're a little bit stronger in some sort of way because of it. And then after that,
Mhm.
not only have you experienced those psychedelic effects, but during them, you extended
Mhm.
your bandwidth of perception, so you heard more sounds, you saw more colors, you saw
Mhm.
more depth and brightness to tones and sounds and feelings. You could
Mhm.
taste differently, so if you were actually eating on them, you had increased experience around taste. So what happens
Mhm.
typically after you have a large dose of psychedelics is that you have an extended period of time where you have that amplified bandwidth of perception, and it's called the
Mhm.
afterglow period. So very, very really, you still get a good
Mhm.
larger perception of colors and a better feeling and stronger taste for a longer period of time. And it's been
Mhm.
shown that people with anger issues that have a
Mhm.
large
Mhm.
dose of magic mushrooms, they
Mhm.
are affected beneficially for up to 6 months, where they don't
Mhm.
need anger management after that. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's a really good outcome for people who take these things typically.
Mhm. Mhm.